Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Does your CEO value trust and authenticity as a foundation of your company culture? If so, they'll love my award-winning book, Selling in a Post-Trust World.
This powerful book dives into the principles of authentic leadership, showing how trust and meaningful relationships can drive real results. It's a must-read for leaders who prioritize people, connection, and culture.
Now, you can send your CEO a free copy of this game-changing book. It's simple, free, and the perfect way to celebrate a leader who leads with heart.
So visit ceo.sellingfromtheheart.net and we'll send a free copy of the book to your CEO today. That's ceo.sellingfromtheheart.net. Because leaders who value trust will embrace this book and take your company's culture to the next level. Welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
As always, another great day here at Selling from the Heart. Excited for our guests. More importantly, let's just have some great fun here today.
We're going to have a great time with our friend Barbara Daoust, all about mindset. And one of the things that I absolutely love about Selling from the Heart is the people that we get to hang out with. They encourage us, they encourage each other. And every week we give a shout out to one of our friends in the Selling from the Heart community.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a special shout out, and he's become a dear friend of ours, great listener. He's read Selling from the Heart, I think, cover to cover more than anybody. His name's Sergey Kornev. Super great guy. I appreciate you because every time we hop on a call, I have a great time with you. Thank you.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Sergey. And thank you to everybody out there in this global community of sales professionals who are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. And lined up with that is our guest today. We're going to take a deep dive into the mindset of high-performing, heart-led selling. Our guest is Barbara Daoust. She's a success coach, a mindset strategist, and a transformational speaker who helps professionals break through the inner barriers holding them back. As a consultant with the Proctor Gallagher Institute and founder of Barbara Daoust Coaching, Barbara has empowered thousands to move from fear to focus, from self-doubt to bold conviction. And in today's post-trust world, it's not just your pitch that matters, it's your presence. So Barbara's approach blends mindset mastery with proven sales psychology to help you rewire how you think, how you lead, and how you connect with others. And she's here with us today. Barbara, welcome to Selling from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
We're going to have a good time. And as we get started, Barbara, you know the question that every guest in the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. That is, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Selling from the heart, for me, is really about connecting to the feeling place. You know, dropping into the heart. I used to be a director for a long time in the entertainment business. And even when I work with other consultants on selling, it's getting them out of the conscious mind, dropping into the subconscious mind, which is the emotional mind, which is the heart mind, and allowing the experience of feeling intuition, right? Because feeling is just vibration. And so when we can connect to the feeling place, that's when our heart opens up. And from that place, we become more curious. We investigate, we get interested. And it's a lot easier to lead people into a sales conversation from that place.
Oh, this is so interesting because I always love throwing the feeling word out, Barbara. And I always ask sales leaders and salespeople, do y'all believe you're in the feelings business?
I love it.
Just to get the response from people.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So you got to unpack this a little bit more.
Well, you know, again, feeling is just a word that we use on kind of a conscious level about describing our vibrations in our body. And knowing that, a thought is a vibration, everything is a vibration, everything is energy. And we've been so trained to be analytical, but what most people are not understanding is that our subconscious mind is controlling, neuroscience is showing now it's controlling over 95% of our behavior.
Wow.
I think 10 years ago, they said it was 85%, which is still a large amount. Right. And so most people are using their logical mind, trying to figure things out, trying to analyze, and coming from a place where it's knowledge based. And I go to the unemployment office and I speak with PhDs who are out of jobs because they're not in application. And so it's really dropping into application into the body. But to get to that place of application, which really means taking action, is to grow the feelings inside of oneself, to grow the desire. And once we start moving from logical mind into the emotional mind, that gets us more into our bodies, into behavioral action. And then no matter what the logical mind is saying, whether it's fear, whether it's I'm not enough, whether it's the limiting belief, we will do it even though the logical mind is telling us not to do it.
Mm-hmm. I love this idea of dropping into our hearts, dropping into our hearts. And as I can see as a director that for anything that will be authentic, to be real, to connect with an audience, it would be really important that the people on the stage are behind the camera are dropping into their hearts. Mm-hmm. Kind enough to give us a little more coaching and context on how do you do that in the middle of a busy business day in a high pressure situation as a sales professional? How do you drop into your heart?
It's a really good question, Darrell. When I was in trainings at the Proctor Institute, I was often asked to work with the other consultants because of my directing background. And then when I would talk with them, and they had scripts, right? These scripts on how to sell, how to enroll a client. And I did with them what I would always do with my acting clients and students, which was I just would say, I don't believe you. And so it would be like, really, until it feels like I can believe what you're saying, like get behind the idea. And what that means by getting behind the idea, there's a big difference, like even for the actor on stage to the actor who's memorized a line and comes out and says, "Good afternoon, Darrell," right? Versus the person who really connects at the authentic level, right? And just simply says, "Good afternoon, Darrell. Great to see you." Right. One is where it's a rehearsal. One is where it's, the concept of simulation is when you get to practice. But, it's that belief level to be able to believe that somebody is genuinely interested, that somebody is coming from a place of authenticity because they're curious, and to really engage, which is essentially forgetting about oneself. And moving into the other person's world. So what I would even do as a director, directing actors is not the easiest thing, right? Because they're in a place of, self-judgment, let's say, right? But I would always energetically connect with the energy of the individual and direct them from that place. It wouldn't be my idea of how it should be. It would be more of connecting to who is this person and what is their energy, and following the cues and listening to the cues and letting that inform the next question or the next direction versus having it planned out. So when you've got it planned out, it's it's more strategic, right? And so you're looking at everybody the same. Okay, this is the strategy. This is the strategy. And this is one of the most, I think, neglected areas in any kind of management training in any business, is where everybody is being taught to do the same thing because so-and-so had success. And let's follow what this person did. And this is the strategy of what this person did. But they're not really working with the individual's paradigms. They're not working with the individual's limitations. They're not working with the individual's belief systems and what is essentially programming, because we've been programmed from the time we're born, until about the age of 7. We don't have the ability to rationalize. We don't have these cognitive skills. Our cognition level is not that high. We've just been absorbing everything. I think it was like a Franciscan monk who said, show me the boy at 7 and I'll show you the man. Right. And so that programming is already there, and it's that imprint, and every decision is being made from that imprint. And as we evolve, we're still making these decisions from this programming. And, it's in the DNA. It's even genetically predisposed. I just did a keynote speech at a convention in Vegas, and, I got a good laugh out of it, because I said, I've been, genetically predisposed to have crooked baby fingers. Right. And my mother had crooked baby fingers, and my grandmother had crooked baby fingers. Right. This is why we come out looking like, our parents or our grandparents and our ancestors. It's all programming. So to really start to work with the individual and the individual's paradigm, that's where there's going to be more success, rather than just because, and again, in a lot of training, I work with a lot of financial advisors, and they've got their managers, who keep on saying, and if you do it this way, if you make your 30 phone calls a day, but why are they not making those 30 phone calls a day? That's what they're not dealing with.
Well, what's so interesting about this, and I'm sitting there listening to what you're saying, I'm just like going back and I'm going back and I'm going back in time to my early 20s, where I had to memorize scripts when I first got into sales, and I had the hardest time memorizing scripts for the simple reason it wasn't me.
Right.
I couldn't identify to all of this. So the best advice I ever got was understand the foundation around the script, but make it your own in a way that you feel comfortable delivering, as long as you deliver it in a way that helps somebody make sense of what you're saying. So I'm sitting there thinking about scripts as equating to inauthenticity versus authenticity, if I'm getting what you're saying correctly.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you see speakers on stage, right, there's like the outdated speaker who has to memorize their script, and they have to go to stage right, and then they have to go to stage left, and they have to hit center stage. And it's so scripted that it loses authenticity. It really, it kind of separates the audience from the speaker, and that's why personal story is so powerful and effective. And when one can show vulnerability, one can show flaws and warts, people, I think, respond much more to that than they do to the perfect performer, right? Or the perfect speaker. When it feels like so planned, we automatically go into suspicion.
We do. And sales is not much different than that actor or that speaker in all of this. And there's the pressure and they're all of it. So limiting beliefs. So Larry was 7 years old. Larry had we all had that, right? When it happened, we got what do we do about that? How do we even identify these? Help us out, Barbara. Where do we begin?
Yes. Well, it's so amazing to me that I started studying with Bob Proctor in my 50s. And even though I ran a theater company, I had a show at the Kennedy Center, I worked with the Olsen twins as their personal coach for 10 years. I had an acting academy where a lot of my babies are big stars today. I never could acknowledge my own success and really feel that I was ever enough. But I didn't know it. I still thought that I was doing, well enough. Now that, once I was introduced to Bob Proctor and his teachings, I was like, oh my Lord, why wasn't I taught this? Why? And I went into a master's program in spiritual psychology. I certified in a Success Academy. But it wasn't until I met Bob Proctor that there were like these concepts that had never been taught to me. I had never learned as a person who was a high achiever, seeking more and more success. But one of the, and I work with very successful people who don't feel successful, and that, so they don't even have happiness at the amount of achievement that they've achieved. And really understanding that what I do with my clients is we go after a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? So it has to be something that they do not know how to do and that they are very excited about doing. Because as Bob would always say, most people tiptoe safely to their death with their dreams buried inside. And there are more dreams in the graveyard. So all of these people are walking around with their dreams and just don't have the courage. I don't believe it starts with confidence. I believe it starts with courage. And so when you finally start to take a step, that's when you will gain more confidence, and make mistakes. So I tell people to design their messy, fail forward as fast as you can. Right. But what happens when you go after, you have to be excited about it. And you also get to be scared at the same time. Right. If it doesn't have a certain level of fear in it, you're not going in the right direction. You're just going in the, direction of what you already know. So once you do that, what starts to happen is the programs, the paradigms, the limiting beliefs start to rage. They start to come up to the surface level so that it's coming to the conscious level where you can do something about them. Otherwise, they're staying at the subconscious level, running the show, and you don't even know why. So it's that kind of, I went to this networking event, I wanted to meet 5 people, and I just spoke to one person the whole night. I did it again. Why did I do that again? Why did I do it again? Right? And so there's that conversation with oneself wanting to change, but change is very complicated. And until people understand that we're locked into neural pathways, right, in the brain, and there's a big significant difference between the brain and the mind. And so when you get into a consciousness that is higher than the level of consciousness that you're already thinking with, such as surrounding yourself with people who think differently, who think and have, different experiences, or reading books, whatever it is to stimulate, the conscious mind to grow into an expansive conscious viewpoint, right? Then, when you're looking at going after what you want that you've never done before, these paradigms, I say next level, new devil. Right. And so when this comes forward, then you can, we work on changing 2 habits at a time, because personality is our personal reality, which is really a combination of our actions and behaviors. So we are habit formation, right? It's habit behavior, which is identifying our results. Absolutely. Like, if you've got to look at your results, you're in your external world, it is a reflection of what's going on inside. But most people, and again, one of the things that Bob would always say is most people would 2% of the population really thinks, 3% of the population think they think, and the other 95% would rather die than think. Right? Because thinking, once you really start going deeper, it feels hard. But why it feels hard is because the neural pathways are trying to shift, right? The roadway is just been formed from repetitive thinking. And to shift that, it takes new thinking. So a belief is just a thought that we have over and over again that we accept as the truth. To create a new belief, you've got to get into the repetitive behavior of that new belief over and over and over and over again until the neural pathways start to shift into a new groove. And then one day you'll go, oh, I feel different. Something has changed, and look at my results. They're reflecting it. And that part of the real getting it to the conscious level to be able to change it. And then once you're there, so it was the paradigm. And then the big issue really is people don't understand their self-image. So that's the worthiness piece. And that's where the limiting beliefs of I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough. And we all have it. We all have it. And even self-doubt, we all have it. It's just to what degree we want to push it away or avoid it. I say, notice the self-doubt and then start reframing and working with the roadways, the pathways.
Hey, Barbara, are you talking to me? For some reason, I think like the whole time Barbara's looking at me, talking to me about all of this. But nevertheless,
she's talking to all of us, Larry.
I think she's
My
talking
goodness.
to all of us. But I want to see if you can speak to the high achievers for a moment that are going, this isn't me, right? Come on. I'm achieving this level of success. Barbara, you're not even, I have zero self-limiting beliefs, right? Speak to those doubters that are out there, because after listening to you, I mean, I know I have them. If we're open and honest, we all have them. So how do you speak to that high achiever that says, hey, listen, we might have some of these. What are some of those signs, or how can you get somebody thinking about this?
It's a great question, Larry. You know, with the high achievers that I work with, the biggest question is, are you happy? Right? Are you happy with your results? Are you happy with the direction? I mean, a lot of high achievers that I've worked with that are constantly chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you know, and they might have 3 homes, you know, 3 wives, 3, you know, whatever it is, and they can't see that they have achieved, you know. And then there are those who have achieved, and if they're happy, then great, right? You know, if you are feeling fulfillment and satisfaction, then just keep doing what you're doing. But if you want, we're never just stagnant, you know, and we're either moving forward or we're moving backward. We're never, like, change is constant, right? And so if the high achiever is experiencing a lot of stress and they're not happy about that, then that needs to be examined. And if there's, you know, seeking validation outside of themselves, it's really about the confident leader is the one who can lead themselves. And then I think the confident salesperson is the person who can lead others. And that's where, you know, with the high achiever, like I was just talking to somebody yesterday who said they're a type A personality. They don't want to do goal achievement anymore. They don't want to stress about it. They left corporate because they just felt like they were, you know, bonded, and that they don't want to use money as an aim in their life anymore. And at the same time, their results are not what they want. So it's like, okay, so you are type A, you are a high achiever, and you've made a decision. You're not going to like follow this plan and do these rules, but what are your results? Are you happy with your results? And then he told me that his wife wasn't happy. Right. So from there, it then becomes, well, you can, it's a real fine line because the paradigms are not just, like I say to people, when we're in fear, more often than not, we're in our ego mind, which is driven by ignorance, right? And it's driven by that survival mechanism, the fear, fight, or flight response. And when we're in that fear, we'll defend what we already know. I know that even if I had only known what I know now when I was working alongside the Olsen twins, you know, but I convinced myself that I was really doing well. When I look at it now, you know, I could have really asked for 10 times what I asked for, but I didn't understand my value. I didn't. And, you know, and then I asked the question, well, did I even really want more? But the part of me in the ego mind, right, said, oh, this is good enough, because I didn't want to have to work harder, let's say. But it's not about working harder. It's really about being a frequency or a match for the thing that you want. But the paradigm can come in and say, you don't really want that. You know, and I was driving through an affluent neighborhood in Los Angeles, and I was like looking at these homes saying, no, I don't really want that. You know, I don't need the work to do, you know, to take care of big mansions. And I wasn't even thinking that I could hire help to take care of the mansions. You know, I was just defending why I didn't want it. But really deep down, it was the belief that I couldn't create that. Right. So the paradigm was really tricky, convincing myself that I was satisfied, you know, but ultimately it was just like, I work with clients who won't even allow themselves to want for more. We've been so conditioned, right? Or to be in judgment that it's just, material possessions or whatever it is. But I say, look at what makes you happy, what's important to you. And if you really want the potential inside of you to be expressed, spirit is constantly seeking fuller expression and expansion. We're here to grow, and it's a never ending journey. We are just constantly, and if we're not growing, then, that's where the paradigm gets very tricky and seductive.
Wow. As we wrap up, I love this idea earlier of setting a big, scary, audacious goal, a hairy, audacious, the BHAG, right? That you look at and go, man, that's big, and it is hairy, and it is scary. And seeing what the pursuit of that surfaces in you, I think that is a really powerful concept.
I'll give you an example. I worked with she was 72 years old, and she was a very well-known coach. She was even intimidating to me because she was good, really good, but very direct. And, but then she came into my program. She wanted to lose weight. And I said, you know how to lose weight. You know how to hire a trainer. You know how to run. You know how to eat well. This is not a big, hairy, audacious goal. Right. So I probed a little bit, and I found out that she really admired Ernestine Shepherd, who's an 86-year-old bodybuilder. So I said, how about joining a bodybuilding competition? And she said, okay, I'm in.
Whoa.
So I said, but it's not a goal yet until you find the competition, pay for it. She found the competition. She paid for it. Then she bought her pink fuchsia bikini and tanning spray. She was in the gym every day at 5 a.m. She could hold a plank longer than anybody in the gym, right? Now, but here's the thing. She ended up not doing the competition because she got really, really sick the week before. That's the paradigm. That's the program, that the fear piece that really started to show up in a different way.
Wow.
But the good news is she lost the weight that she had been trying for years. She also wanted to write a book and had been writing for 25 years. I said, writing a book is just not a big, hairy, audacious goal. So I said, in 3 months' time, what if you invite 20 of your closest friends to your living room for you to read the first draft of your book? And she said, okay, I'm in. And then I said, it's not your hairy, audacious goal until you send out the invitations. This was a Wednesday. So when are you sending out the invitations? She said, Monday. 3 months later, I was in her living room when she was reading the first draft.
Oh, right on.
Whoa.
Right. So, and then she said, and in the beginning, she was very skeptical. And then she just started telling everybody, this stuff works. It wasn't her exact words, but she said, this stuff works. So,
I love it.
This was so good. This was fantastic, Barbara.
Thank you for sharing that. I know our listeners are sitting here going, how do I get more Barbara Daoust in my life?
Yes. Well, they can reach out, on my website, www.barbaradaoust.com. And they can just send out a message to me if they'd like to set up a strategy call. I offer complimentary strategy calls. I am having some groups starting. I work privately with people, but I also work in groups. And the nice thing about groups, it's maybe more affordable for somebody than working with me privately. But at the same time, with the groups, what's exciting is that everybody holds each other accountable and inspires one another. And then they see the growth and the potential just starting to pour out of people. When people declare and start aiming and then seeing it's a whole process of really starting to identify those paradigms, creating a new self-image. I like to call it the battle between the old self and the new self.
That's great. Wow. Thank you so much, Barbara, for sharing your heart with us today. This has been amazing.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's ours.
Thank you.
Wow. Larry, I'm so amazing. And
this is a writer downer. There's a lot of writer downers in this one.
Yeah, you want to take this and rewind it and really soak in it and take some action. And I think this concept, because look, as sales professionals, we all know that mindset is huge. Even as we're analyzing sales teams, mindset comes to the surface. You go, what do you do about that? There's so many things, but I love this concept of setting that big, hairy, audacious goal and then having the courage, to do it, not just say you're going to do it, but do it. I love that. Invite your friends, set the bodybuilding competition, whatever that is, but then also be present to what surfaces inside you and have the courage to go, okay, we're going to deal with that. We're going to face that thing head on. And I think that is such a powerful paradigm for all of us in sales and in leadership to be able to find out what are these things that are holding us back. And in the process, set out on a journey to do something really special, which is such a cool paradigm.
Absolutely. And just right before you wrap up, Darrell, I just got to zero in on all the sales professionals that are out there. When we talk about courage and self-limiting beliefs, just please follow along with me on this, because this plays out. We've all experienced it. Is how many salespeople out there, because of the self-limiting beliefs and the doubt, are stuck at mid-level managers and having conversations with mid-level managers because they don't think they're worthy enough to have a conversation with that executive. And that's the executive who could be making the decision. So get in touch with your self-limiting beliefs and that self-doubt and all those stories we conjure up in our heads. But maybe you create that big, hairy, audacious goal and says, from now on, I'm getting to every key executive by this date. And this is the outcome of this.
I love it. And I love it. They're all going to be in my living room. It's going to be fantastic.
They're all going to meet in my living room. We're all going to pull it. We're all going to have a conversation. That was a good one.
That's right. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us this week. We've got great guests coming up throughout the summer. So do us a favor. Would you leave us a review and share the podcast? It's helping us build this global community of sales professionals just like you and me and everyone out there who's dedicated to selling from the heart. And I'm so grateful you joined us this week. Until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust. Confront your self-limiting beliefs, and most of all,
sell from the heart.